Okay, everybody. Okay, everybody. So, this is a Raymond Walsh report on the 2nd of April, on Tuesday, the 2nd of April 2019, and everything to be going according to plan. So, okay, so again, I will just jump into the news and then the idea, if you can insert some bits about targeting in to see how a lot of this kind of dystopian Orwellian news actually over the dovetailing and overlapping with what's happening with target individual. But let's jump straight into the news. I'm not going to be very long because I'm expecting some friends to come along, so I will have to end this stream quite abruptly at some point. But yes, so so it's probably going to be able to do only half an hour, then I may actually resume later today to do another segment. So let's have a look. And okay, this do we get in there some? So we start to get some titles, some news, and I will just focus on a few items, and let's see if we can bring it up. Okay. So it is Google News. It is from actually. It is if I can show it to you. It is very interesting site I just found recently. It's called Dark Cyber. So it gives you all the background, really the background of what's happening with on what's happening with in behind the scene with in Silicon Valley and the rest of. So you can subscribe if you want. It's called Dark Cyber. You subscribe yourself, and basically is saying that basically to the what he's saying in this article is two very different characters, like Elizabeth Warren and Rupert Murdoch are calling for the breaking up of Google and Facebook, basically, and for possibly fairly different with possibly fairly different motivation. Elizabeth Warren and Rupert Murdoch, and if the article go behind the scene and really was to describe what's really going on, and basically to say that the breaking up of Google and Facebook is very unlikely, but particularly on the with regard to Rupert Murdoch, the motivation is actually to basically and other media organizations, like I say, legacy media, mainstream media, their motivation in all this matter is that basically they will try to, and the News Corporation, which is mean Murdoch, proposed a system where Google and presumably Facebook could pay license fees to publishers to compensate them for the benefit they derive from their content. The new proposal sounds more like the system used around the world to decide royalty paid by streaming services and radio stations to songwriters and record labels. It would involve a new statutory framework and the independent economic analysis of the benefit of news to the platform to help determine pay. So basically, that's again, there is a bit, in a way, we can describe again as describe again as basically, in a way, legacy media try to, to limit the to encroach in a way of limiting the freedom or even of the Silicon Valley new media, the new digital media. I also try maybe to extract some money out of them. So, which because all basically most of the money what we have is most of the mainstream media, legacy media are all losing a huge amount of money, so that it can encroach a bit into activity of the new digital media, also to extract some money from them. So the article says very unlikely, it's very unlikely that, in practical terms, it's very unlikely that, Google and Facebook are going to be broken down in a number of different entities, but is all part of, particularly when it comes to legacy media, Rupert Murdoch is trying to encroach into, and maybe to extract some revenue or some money out of new media, new digital media. So that's it's so. But then again, several Jamal Khashoggi killers were trained in the US. That should come as a surprise to anyone. So I don't think it's even, everyone is trained in the US. Everyone is trained in the US. Everyone gets trained in the US. Okay? The privilege of getting trained in the US from the leader of the, Tahrir Square protest in Tahrir Square protest in Egypt, which were all trained by the NED, the National Endowment for Democracy, to Osama bin Laden, who was trained by the CIA. So that's so obviously the Khashoggi killers, there were no exception. They were trained in the US. And then there is some interesting figure quickly. Retail layoff are 92% higher in 2019. So I tell you some, they're telling us that the rigged stock market is booming. But if you look at the real economy, I think is that you get a pretty different picture. And then let's go to ITNJ Judicial Commission. The National Tribunal for Natural Justice is going to institute another Judicial Commission of Inquiry. That is going to happen at the New Year Festival World Health Sovereignty Summit, which is actually going to happen in Bali. I think many people will be able to travel to Bali, unfortunately, but yes, so it's not exactly for everybody. But anyway, I have a lot of respect for. I have a lot of respect for the International Tribunal for Natural Justice. They actually, on many occasions, they have been interviewing targeted individuals and publishing the interview on their website, on their, so I have a lot of respect for them, and I hope they may be able to offer some support to target individuals. We target individuals need a lot of support. And so then there is also this interesting, I always try to be extreme in what I say, whilst at the same time try to be moderate in what I say, in the sense that I try to be very rational. So it's interesting is to have a look at this, where is it? Oops. If I can, if I can just get to this. Oh, there's no link. Oh, PT. So I was trying to get to this video on G5. There is a video on G5 which I would like to show to you very quickly. And okay, let's see if I can maybe. So look. Okay. So obviously there is a lot of talking about all alternative in alternative media at the moment about 5G and it's the danger of 5G. I always been trying to deal with this matter in a rather rational and cautious way, not to go but. Anyway, it will be interesting to have a look at I'm going to show you just the beginning of this video made by Sasha Stone is totally free to watch if you look it up, and you should totally free to watch if you look it up. And I would like to show you just. Um, just so.
My name is Daphne Tachover, and I'm the founder of an organization called We Are the Evidence.
It's important to understand what the 5G is doing and what they say it's doing. We're told on the IEEE beamforming document that this technology cooked your eyes like eggs in World War II. And you all need to understand these are military weapons. These are assault frequencies. If you garner nothing more than that, that's what you need to know. It's microwave radiation warfare is what this is.
So yes, so
Ladies and gentlemen, please join.
so I'm focusing on the beginning of this documentary, which seemed to made by Sasha Stone on the new 5G technology, which seemed to be emphasizing what many people in it's as I say, I try to be extreme in what I say. At the same time, I also try to be totally rational. So I don't want to just to jump to conclusion, but seems to be at least a lot of potential for 5G technology to be used for military purposes and for social control and surveillance. So there is from what I know, I don't claim to know everything about 5G. From what little I know, I think there is a lot of potential in 5G technology to be used for military purposes, for social control, and for surveillance. And it is so basically it seems that the frequency used in 5G the technologies are very similar to the frequency which are being used, for instance, by microwave device used by which have been used for crowd control in a number of many occasions in like sonic guns and ADS, active denial systems. So the frequency is very close. There is a report that people suffering a lot of damage, a lot of neurological damage when like firefighters. In the US, they're trying to install this kind of technologies facility in all with all fire station, and they seem to already happening a lot of people falling ill and firefighters falling ill and suffering neurological damage a lot quicker that you may say that was happening with previous technology like 4G. So 4G, there's been a report of damage, but it was taking some time for people to become aware of the damage, or to start really falling ill. With 5G, it seems that this is happening very rapidly, because as soon as they start installing these so I don't want to jump to conclusion, but I just give you some of the facts. As soon as they started to install this 5G technology in a number of fire stations in the US, immediately the firefighters starting to fall ill and to suffer even neurological damage. Then if I can bring it in now, there is also this story about all these recently, which seem to dovetail a bit with this story about all these American and Canadian diplomats, who recently have been complaining of being targeted with microwave devices in China and Cuba. They actually seem to have been suffering substantial neurological damage. So you have to wonder if that is what they've been targeted with in China, Cuba, where maybe technology which are like 5G technology or similar technology. So, but let's back to the news. As I said, I don't have a lot of time today because I'm expecting some friends to visit me. So I may have to cut off this stream quite abruptly. So again, to remind you, there is this the International Tribunal for, where is it? Lost it. Okay. So the International Tribunal for National Justice is going to have soon a session, to hold the session in Bali as part of Earth Festival in Bali. They're going to have a session of the International Tribunal for National Justice there. It is going to be very soon. I may even try to see if I can find the date for you. It's going to be in Bali, Indonesia, so I don't expect that many people will be able to attend there. But anyway, if people want to, if I'm interested, there's still some time for people to get organized. It's going to be the World Health Sovereignty Summit is in Bali between the 20th and the 22nd of June this year. So, if people are interested. So let's go back to the news. Several Jamaica soldiers killed were trained in the US. Surprise. It seems that the retail layoff are 92% higher in 2019. It seems that they're telling us that the stock market is booming, the economy is booming. There's never been so many people in employment, etc. But it seems that what's happening on the ground, the millions of people being thrown into abject poverty and shop closing, retail chain having to close down shop, and bank closing branches. And so I think that what they're telling us, as per usual, the official version of the official narrative is a lot of BS. And what people they can see on the ground, what's happening with crime, layoff, unemployment, abject poverty. People being unable to feed their kids. So that's the reality. Then they're telling us that the stock market is booming. The coup failed. Venezuela now braced themselves for, from the excellent Canary, the Canary in the UK, the Canary UK. The coup failed from John McAvoy. The coup failed. Venezuela now braced themselves for slow, punishing economic warfare. Okay, yeah. Let's go down to page. Our Western doctor, it is very sensitive because I can have to pay heavy price for keep talking about vaccine. But yesterday I was actually telling people about what's happening with this chemotherapy, which is basically was discovered through the use of mustard gas in a chemical weapon in the trenches of, sorry about my voice, which is not 100%, in the trenches of World War I. So they discovered, through the use of mustard gas, a chemical weapon in the trenches of World War I, they came with the idea that they can use this stuff, or part of this stuff, or some of the stuff, or something derived by this stuff to treat cancer. So that was cancer chemotherapy, where it's coming from a mustard gas chemical weapon used in the trenches in World War I. So I think that most of the pharma allopathic medicine complex is just a criminal racket. I'm sorry, I have to excuse my French, but I have to tell you, our Western doctor compelled to support the vaccine industry. It's fucking hell. You have to ask, wow, wow, what do you think? With all the body count for natural practitioner and dying like flies, everyone, which proposing some alternative cure to cancer, dying immediately after or committing suicide with shooting themselves with 5 or 6 bullets 5 or 6 times or something. So you have to ask. Of course, there's this of course, Western doctors are compelled to support the vaccine industry. What you think is something which is optional to them? My God, you have all this massacre of natural practitioners and everyone, the questioning, questioning the official narrative on vaccine, getting suicided or disappearing or something. So, yeah, so I think you need to ask if, I think I may try to have some juice and see if I can do something for my wife. So is it fair to say that yes, as Western doctors are compelled to support the vaccine industry, they know what is good for them, I suppose. Yeah. So, okay, where are we? So as I said, I may have to stop this stream quite abruptly because it ends nuclear war in Russia. There is Stephen E. Cohen, which is, to the best of my understanding, is the proeminent scholar when it comes to old matter Russians in the United States. He's basically War with Russia. So his book War with Russia. In his book War with Russia, from Putin Ukraine to Trump Russia Gate. He's explaining about Stephen Cohen is said at the bottom. The most controversial Russia expert in America. I would say, to the best of my knowledge, also the more knowledgeable Russia expert in America, Stephen Cohen. And so basically, I think in this book is argued that basically the CIA is working round the clock to try to engineer some kind of conflict, or war. Conflict in meaning war with Russia. That's what it is, the contention of what Stephen Cohen say in his book War with Russia, ? Brussels became first major city to halt 5G due to health concern. There is an interesting article on Dr. Gail Mary Bradbrook, which is one of the lady we launched the Extinction Rebellion, movement, one of the founder of the Extinction Rebellion movement. I'm not going to say any more about that. So I'm not going to go into this article, but I'm going to go into another article which say astroturfing the way for the fourth industrial revolution. Let's look at the original article. Astroturfing the way for the fourth industrial revolution. I know that anything I may say at this point may be used against me. Sorry. So I think I need to be a bit careful what you say. But just to maybe the only thing I'm going to say is that not everything not everything you see or you are told is actually don't take everything you heard at face value, because I'm not going to say anything more about the specific of this article, but I would like to say a few words about the general picture, the global picture, because since after the end of World War II, they created the Club of Rome, and then after that they created the Bilderberg Group, and then they created the Trilateral Commission, and then basically the idea behind all this organization is to spread this idea that the planet resources are finite, limited, and that we need to control the growth of population. We need to control our consumption. But then you have like you have recently there was this article from James Corbett, James Corbett lives. I'm sure most people know about James Corbett. He lives in Japan, so basically, obviously, I suppose most of his rooting. He's been living in Japan for a very long time. He's rooting into Japanese reality. So some of these reflections just stem out of where he's living, the Japanese reality. He made this observation that contrary to what we have been told by the people belonging to the Club of Rome, or what we have been told by the Bilderbergers, actually, for instance, in Japan, there has been a sharp decline in the population growth, which is basically for many years now the population number in Japan has been declining. It has, James Corbett it's produced a study showing that actually this is greatly damaging the decline in births in Japan is doing a lot of damage to the Japanese economy, causing causing a huge amount of stagnation, and then you can argue also that the main reason for the stagnation of the Japanese economy is when in the early 90s, when Japan was no longer needed after the fall of the Berlin Wall, they thought Japan was no longer needed to create some kind of bulwark against the expansion of the communism. So they start, instead of, until then they've been trying anyway to keep Japan on side as it's a bulwark against communism. So they were trying to give them a lot of favorable economic trade condition, and passing on all kinds of technology for free, and giving them all kinds of technology blueprints, and to develop the new technology, etc. Then in the early 90s, they thought, okay, now Japan is no longer of any use because the communism is dead. So instead of try to actually promote all the international bankers and the Anglo-Zionist American empire, instead of try to promote, push and facilitate the growth of the economy in Japan, they started to do something else. They started to parachute into Japan all these economists trained of the School of Chicago with Milton Friedman, and they start applying in Japan very strict neoliberal economic policy. Within weeks, months, the Japanese economy they got into chronic stagnation, which is lasted until the present. So, but James Corbett argues that actually one of the causes of this economic stagnation in Japan is actually the decline in the number of the population. So contrary to what we have been told by these luminaires and Bill Gates, that they say we need to reduce the number of the population, we need to reduce consumption, because the main thing I'm trying to tell you, these people, the terror financial banking complex, all the industrialists, the billionaire, they don't want universal prosperity. So they don't want universal prosperity, because with universal prosperity, people start to question authority. As the more there is universal prosperity in countries all over the world, the less is their power, their control over what is going on. So basically, you may think that you may be quite suspicious of its institution like the Club of Rome or the Bilderberger group, which advocate a decline in natality. They advocate reducing consumption, because maybe their main concern is that to prevent people from. And what we have in the world now, instead of universal prosperity, we have universal poverty. Most of the people in the world are struggling or if they are not into abject poverty. So I mean, we need to be a bit careful about the institution like the Club of Rome or the Bilderberger group, which promote the decline in natality. They promote decline in using earth resources, because they have the agenda of preventing universal prosperity. The real agenda may be actually to prevent universal prosperity, to increase their control their control over the world population, which is to enslave the world population, which is actually what's happening now. Look at the condition of the worker in the West increasing, look at the condition of the worker in China, look at the condition of the worker in the United States. We are being enslaved. So so you need to be a bit careful when people like, like the Club of Rome, the Build a Better group, and other groups, they go with this idea that we need to reduce natality, we need to reduce consumption. Well, that may be a good idea. Maybe it's very complex. That some of the things, I'm all in favor. I'm vegetarian. I'm all in favor of working on your lifestyle and try to make sure that your lifestyle is not hurting planet Earth. I'm totally in favor of that, but we need to be a bit careful because some of these institutions, like the Club of Rome, of the Build a Better group, which promote this idea that we need to reduce natality, we need to reduce the use of Earth resources. They actually their main concern is actually not so much about Earth, but their main concern may be actually to basically, instead of preventing a situation of universal prosperity, which really I've unfortunately stopped the broadcast, and yes.